I still remember that fateful night, the moment when everything I thought I knew about my life shattered in a single, heart-wrenching revelation. It was a collision of desire and betrayal, of passion and deceit. I discovered that my husband, Thomas, a 64-year-old ex-detective with a storied past, had become entangled with my dear friend Helen, a sprightly, 38-year-old journalist whose probing questions often left no secret untouched. That night, a mix of raw emotion and shocking reality overwhelmed me, leaving me both numb and furious. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel, and a huge thank you to all the generous gifters. Please engage and share your thoughts in the comments below. My name is Diane, and I have spent many years believing in the sanctity of love and loyalty. I had always admired Thomas for his dedication to his work and his protective nature. His experience as a detective had once inspired me with a sense of security and pride. Yet, behind the stoic exterior and well-worn badge of honor, I would come to learn that secrets can hide in even the most trusted hearts. I first noticed something was off when Thomas began coming home later than usual, his eyes clouded with a mix of guilt and confusion. One chilly evening, as I sat in our quiet suburban kitchen in the USA, I overheard a whispered conversation between Thomas and Helen. Their words, laced with laughter and intimate details, hinted at a world that I had been completely unaware of. "Thomas, are you sure about this?" Helen had asked softly during one of their private moments, her tone both curious and daring. Thomas' response was mumbled, half hidden by the weight of his past and the burden of his choices. The truth hit me like a punch in the gut, a betrayal I never expected from the man I loved. In that moment, the comfortable life we had built together unraveled, leaving me to confront the harsh reality of infidelity and the emotional turmoil it brings. In the days that followed that devastating night, life took on a surreal quality. Every moment felt heavy with unspoken words and half-truths. I began noticing the smallest details that, in hindsight, pointed to a secret world hidden behind the normal routines of our suburban life. The gentle clink of Thomas' keys as he returned home grew into a harbinger of unease, and the lingering scent of unfamiliar perfume in our hallway left me unsettled. One rainy afternoon, while tidying up the living room, I found a stray newspaper clipping tucked between the cushions of the couch. It was an article about a daring investigative piece led by none other than Helen, a story that hinted at corruption in local politics. The headline, bold and provocative, was a stark contrast to the quiet, predictable world I had known. It was as if Helen was living two lives, one as my trusted friend, and another as a fearless journalist chasing the truth. Late one evening, I overheard a hushed conversation from the study. Thomas' voice, usually calm and measured, carried a strange urgency as he spoke with Helen over the phone. "Thomas, you know what's at stake here," Helen's voice whispered, layered with both challenge and concern. "Believe me, I'm aware," he replied, his tone betraying a mix of defiance and regret. "But sometimes, the truth costs more than I ever imagined." I listened, heart pounding, as their dialogue unfolded like a secret code. Their words hinted at hidden meetings, concealed rendezvous in the back of quiet diners, and even mysterious late-night drives along empty roads. Each revelation pulled me deeper into a web of uncertainty and heartbreak. The subtle clues piled up, and I began questioning every interaction, every shared glance between Thomas and Helen. What had once been small, almost ignorable moments now became a tapestry of whispers and shadows, each thread weaving a story of betrayal that I was forced to confront. The tension reached a boiling point one chilly evening when I could no longer keep my heartache and suspicions to myself. I found Thomas in our dimly lit living room, his face etched with exhaustion and regret. The quiet hum of the television filled the silence between us as I stepped forward, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and sorrow. "Thomas, we need to talk," I said, my words sharp in the stillness. He looked up, startled, his eyes wide with a silent plea for understanding. "Diane, I didn't expect you to find out this way," he stuttered, his tone laden with guilt. I could barely contain the surge of emotions. "How long have you been living a double life? Who is she really, Helen? What did you find in her eyes that made you forget everything we built together?" My voice wavered as I demanded answers, each word a mixture of heartbreak and betrayal. Thomas took a deep breath, his fingers nervously twisting the edge of his worn-out sweater. "It started off as something I never meant to do," he confessed, his voice cracking. "I was lonely, lost in memories of a past that I thought was behind me. Helen was so full of life, asking questions that made me feel alive again. But it wasn't just about that, it grew into something I can't even explain now." His admission cut deeper than I expected. Alive? Or were you trying to escape from the truth of our life? I shot back, my voice rising with every word. "We were a team, Thomas. I trusted you with everything. Our dreams, our struggles. How could you let this happen?" For a long moment, the only sound was our heavy breathing as the weight of his confessions settled around us. In that painful silence, I saw the man I once loved crumble under the pressure of his own choices, while I struggled to piece together the remnants of my shattered trust. The confrontation left us both raw and exposed, a painful turning point that would forever alter the course of our lives. Just when I thought I had unraveled enough of the truth, fate threw another twist into the mix. A few weeks after that painful confrontation, I began noticing more strange behaviors from both Thomas and Helen. My suspicions turned into an insistent need for answers, driving me to secretly follow clues that I never imagined I would have to pursue. One cool evening, while returning home early from a friend's gathering, I spotted Thomas leaving a small, nondescript building on the outskirts of town. His hurried pace and furtive glances only deepened my worry. The next morning, as I sat down to sip my coffee, a knock at the door startled me. It was Helen, her eyes unusually soft and a hesitant smile playing on her lips. "Diane, we need to talk," she said in a tone that seemed more sincere than before. I braced myself for more painful confessions. As we sat in the quiet kitchen, she took a deep breath and revealed something that shook me to my core. She was pregnant. Not mine, but Thomas. "Thomas told me he never planned on keeping secrets from you," she explained, her voice trembling with a mixture of regret and resignation. "I only wanted to be honest once I realized what our future might hold." The shock of her words was almost too much to bear. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal, but also a strange sense of pity for the innocent life that now hung in the balance. Determined to get to the bottom of it all, I confronted Thomas once more. "How could you do this to our family, Thomas?" I demanded, my voice cracking with hurt. His eyes, filled with sorrow and the weight of his choices, met mine. "Diane, I was lost and confused, trying to fill a void that I never truly understood," he murmured. In that moment, I realized that our lives were entangled in ways that none of us could have predicted, and the consequences of our actions were far more complex than simple betrayal. In the quiet weeks that followed the explosion of secrets, I found myself standing at the crossroads of despair and a fragile hope for redemption. The shock of Thomas' betrayal and Helen's unexpected pregnancy had left deep scars on my heart. I spent many sleepless nights grappling with waves of anger, sorrow, and disbelief as I tried to piece together the shattered remnants of my life. One chilly morning, while walking through our familiar neighborhood park, I encountered an elderly woman who sat quietly on a bench, her eyes filled with a gentle wisdom. "Sometimes," she said softly, "the greatest pain can lead us to a new beginning." Her words resonated with me deeply, stirring a hidden strength I never knew I possessed. I realized that clinging to the past would only imprison me in bitterness, and that forgiveness, however difficult, might be the key to reclaiming my life. I confronted Thomas one final time. "I can't change what has happened, but I refuse to let it define me," I told him, my voice steady despite the lingering hurt. He looked at me with remorse and a silent understanding that our lives had taken irreversible turns. Meanwhile, Helen, too, began to confront the consequences of her actions. In a heartfelt conversation over coffee, she admitted, "I never intended to hurt anyone. I hope someday you can find it in your heart to forgive, not for me, but for your own peace." As I set forth on a journey of healing, I embraced the realization that redemption comes from within. My experience, filled with pain and betrayal, ultimately became a catalyst for personal growth and renewal. To all my dear viewers and listeners, drop your comments about the story and please like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Your thoughts and support mean the world to me.